The talk I'm going to give is called Our Tests of Faith and Why They Matter. How many of you are Bills fans here? Any Bills fans? So I'd like to begin with a word about our Buffalo Bills. Now, I know we are all still depressed about the opening game. My son Boaz won't even look at the TV. It was a difficult start to the season. But let me remind you of the moment from last season where I first understood how truly special a season it was going to be. No, not the 6 straight wins to end the regular season, not our first playoff win in 2 decades, not that we reached the AFC Championship game. No, none of those defined who we were and who we would become as a team. The single most important moment, I believe, occurred in the waning seconds of a November game against the Arizona Cardinals. The Bills were winning by almost a touchdown and looked to close out a difficult opponent. While they had not played the greatest of games, we would at least emerge with a W. At that moment, the Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray reached back with 11 seconds left and heaved a pass towards the end zone. And with Bills surrounding him, his receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, pulled down the ball. We had lost. But had we? Watching the distraught faces of the Bills players, listening to the comments after the game, I saw right then how badly they wanted it. This was the moment their toughness was revealed, not by how they handled their successes, but how they handled failure. To show you what I mean, I'd like to take you back to Mrs. Wiener's 9th grade English class at the Kippur Hebrew Academy in Marion, Pennsylvania. I can still see the seconds ticking away on the clock. Everyone looked like they knew exactly what they were doing, hard at work at their desks. Me, I had no idea. This was 9th grade, the year when everyone had been telling us grades mattered. This was my first test, and I was failing it. When I handed in a nearly blank paper, Mrs. Wiener, a small, stern woman who rarely smiled, didn't condemn me for not preparing adequately or shake her head at just how foolish I had been. She looked at me as sweetly as she could and invited me back into her office the next day during my break to go over the results. It was at that meeting, over the course of a half hour, that I learned all the techniques I would need to succeed, not only in 9th grade English, but high school, college, and even rabbinical school. Mrs. Wiener understood that passing a test was never the goal. Succeeding in life was. On Rosh Hashanah, we read about the 10 tests of Abraham, how he left his family and community at Ur of the Chaldeans and journeyed off to Canaan, how he overcame the 5 kings, saved Lot from Sodom and Gomorrah, and willingly journeyed off to Mount Moriah, taking his only son, his beloved son, his Isaac, to be sacrificed to God. These were not tests of knowledge, but of allegiance and perseverance. And at the end of each of his tests, Abraham never received a passing grade or any grade at all. We are his passing grade. The fact that we are here all these years later means that he and Sarah succeeded beyond even their wildest imaginations. On Yom Kippur, we are the ones that are being tested. Fasting, not wearing leather shoes, not bathing, most importantly, coming together in prayer are all tests. And I have good news for all of you. If you are listening to me either in person or virtually, you have passed. The tests of Yom Kippur are about preparing for the year ahead. We can never fully be ready for the unknown that lies in wait for us in 5782, but we can put in the work necessary to feel more prepared. Together we tell one another, we've got this. Together, collectively, step by step, we will face our future. When COVID struck a year and a half ago, none of us could have foreseen how all of our lives would be turned inside out. Forced to create new routines, new safety nets, new ways of working and surviving, new ways of living. No individual or community could ever have been fully ready for such calamities. But as much as anyone could, we at Shir Shalom were. We had been tested not once, not twice, but like Abraham, countless times. In 2012, 5772, when we came together, we had no idea what we were doing. A reform, reconstructionist synagogue merger, unheard of. Isaac Mayer Wise and Mordecai Kaplan would be rolling in their graves. And yet we still persisted. At our initial congregational meeting, where we not only approved the merger, but voted on a name, Congregation Shir Shalom, a name that still gives me goosebumps as I imagine Cantor Susan Whaley of blessed memory smiling down at us from her perch in heaven, kvelling that her two communities, Temple Sinai and Temple Beth Am, had come together with a name that means Song of Peace. At the end of that meeting, our then and now current president, Todd Sugarman, turned to our board member, Sherry Jo Reich, who also had been part of both legacy congregations, and asked, "Did I do the right thing?" "Yes," Sherry Jo replied. "Yes, yes, yes." The first year was hard. Anyone remember the great Hanukkah service debate, where our two legacy sisterhoods battled over whether we would be having a Hanukkah Seder or a service in a latke bar? How about the kosher style controversy? Did the term mean complete separation of milk and meat, or just having separate tables? What about the challenge of whether we would be standing or sitting during the Shema? Or which prayer book to use, Mishkan Tefillah, Ma'amad Sinai, or something entirely different? Every decision seemed fraught and anxiety-filled. Nothing was simple, but it was all meaningful. We were creating something new, special, something that we were all part of, something our very own. The world of 2012 was very different than the world of 2021. In 2012, there were no police officers at our door every Friday night. Anti-Semitism? We lived in America. Questions about Black Lives Matter, pronoun use, or Me Too all had not been part of our national conversation. Donald Trump was still a celebrity game show host. Joe Biden was still vice president. I still had cable, a home phone, and listened to music on an iPod. And we remember how the bills were in 2012. It wasn't very good. Over the years, we have learned and grown together. Our community shrank in size, but grew in strength. As people often remind me, I am no longer the young rabbi. I am now, as scary as it sounds, one of the senior rabbis of Buffalo. When COVID hit, we had been used to adjusting and adapting. We had been tested. We had grit. There is a reason why we had the largest in-person High Holy Day services in the middle of a pandemic in the world, possibly, with almost 500 people joining us at the Transit Drive-In. We were one of the few places that did not just stick with one approach, like many of our Zoom-exclusive neighbors across the country. Thanks to the efforts and creativity of our cantor, Joanne, our synagogue board and executive board and ritual committee, we tried new things again and again. We were willing to fall and pick ourselves up again. Now in our 10th year as a congregation and my 13th year in Buffalo, our B'nai Mitzvah year, we are no longer babies. We have an identity and a purpose. We stand for caring, compassion, kindness, and opening. On July 1st, this coming year, 2022, we will mark our 10th birthday. 10 High Holy Days, 10 Passovers, 10 Hanukkahs, hundreds of baby namings, weddings, and B'nai Mitzvah, and sadly, also hundreds of funerals as well. On that day, 10 years ago, several dozen congregants began the morning at the former Temple Sinai building on Alberta Drive. We read Torah there for the last time, and then dressing our Torahs and carrying them in our arms, we began the 3.2-mile journey to our new congregation, Shir Shalom Sanctuary. Stand up if you were there on that day. I know we have a number of you. Yeah. It's good to see you. What a special time. You can sit down now. I have with me the very first article written in the Buffalo News. You can see how yellow the paper. One day we'll say, it was written in the Buffalo News? What's that? It was, in it we have little Alva Finkelstein leading our way, now a blessed memory. For weeks we had hemmed and hawed about whether we would walk, whether the walk was a good idea. We had weather and security concerns. Still, in the end, we decided it was worth it, and it was. To commemorate that moment, I had Nancy McGorry blow up the Buffalo News article, and we have placed it outside of our sanctuary doors over there. On the other side of the doorway, we have our signed mission statement that Gail Lewis helped us conceive, to be a welcoming community and to enhance all aspects of Jewish life. May this be a year to celebrate both our successes and our failures, all the things that make us who we are. If you have memorabilia from our first decade, bring it in. If you have memories, please share them. We want to hear. It's time to celebrate. All these years later, I am profoundly grateful to Mrs. Weiner for showing me that tests are about more than grades. They're about growth. I would not be a rabbi without her kindness, and I would not be the rabbi I am today without all of yours. Thank you for the gift of Congregation Shir Shalom. May we continue to go unabashed into the new year. We are Shir Shalom strong, an easy and meaningful fast. May we all be written and sealed in the book of life well lived. Take a moment to think of your own memories, whether you just joined us or you've been here the whole time, of what this community means to you.